How's it going, you guys? So I'm about to record this video in between workouts, which is why I might sound a little pumped up right now. So in this video, I'm going to be discussing some of the principles that Ray Peat followers like to spread. And I've been corrected over and over again that Ray Peat doesn't say any hard and fast guidelines and blah blah blah. Always, there's some weird counter argument to every video I make. But these are ideas that his followers typically will spread. So, let's see, the first idea is that they claim serotonin is a stress hormone or stress neurotransmitter. Now here's the thing. You can definitely test that. How do you test that? How do you test this idea that serotonin is a stress hormone and it increases stress and increases inflammation and yada yada? Okay, well, first of all, if you understand the serotonin cascade, you understand that tryptophan from protein foods converts into 5-HTP, which converts over into either melatonin or serotonin. Of course, there are a couple of intermediates in between, but those are the primary neurotransmitters in the cascade that most people talk about. So tryptophan turns into 5-HTP, which turns into serotonin, which can turn into melatonin. And here's the thing. Okay, so first of all, melatonin is released in response to dark light and a cold environment in order to regulate your sleep pattern. Its main function is not to induce sleep. Its main function is to regulate your sleep cycle. And so basically, if you want to fall asleep at 8 p.m. every night, you want to stimulate melatonin at that time. And whatever time melatonin is released becomes your new sleep schedule after a period of days of consistent melatonin release at that time. The point here is that melatonin is released to play a huge role in putting somebody to sleep, essentially. Although it does not induce sleep, it plays a huge role in putting someone into sleep. So melatonin is a byproduct of the serotonin cascade that is a vital process in putting you to sleep, essentially. So it puts you to sleep. Serotonin, okay? So hey, check this out. Go out to the store. And I'm not giving medical advice, but here's how you test this. You go out to the store and you choose to buy 5-HTP as a supplement. You take 5-HTP. So 5-HTP is readily available over the counter at any health food store. Even grocery stores now have it. Even Walmart has it. You buy 5-HTP, a precursor to serotonin, and I guarantee you, if you take the proper dosage, if you start off even with one of the smallest dosages available, 50 milligrams, and you take that on an empty stomach, within 30 minutes, you're going to feel relaxed. You're going to feel calm. You might feel a little bit sleepy. Why in the world would you feel calm and sleepy after taking a serotonin precursor? Because serotonin is one of your body's primary inhibitory neurotransmitters. You can easily prove that to yourself by taking a 5-HTP or tryptophan supplement. These supplements have been used for over 20 years now by regular people who want an alternative to regular medical therapies, and also functional medicine practitioners also use these 5-HTP and tryptophan to induce sleep and to help with depression, and to also help with anxiety. Now, there are a very small subset of people who, if they take 5-HTP, they might feel anxious, and sometimes that has to do with the rest of their diet, and if they have adequate amounts of niacin and other precursor vitamins and minerals like magnesium as well, that are used as cofactors to convert 5-HTP into serotonin. Some people who experience jittery and anxiety from 5-HTP, they find when they supplement with tryptophan instead that it relieves the problem and it works better for them. But that doesn't mean that serotonin is a stress hormone. That just means for whatever reason there's an issue in their own body's metabolism of the serotonin cascade, and for whatever reason tryptophan work better for them. So, and obviously it's dose dependent, because if you take too much 5-HTP, then you can have the opposite, okay? So, you know, first of all, serotonin, dopamine, you know, endorphins, these don't always have just one effect, okay? So obviously it depends on the receptors that we're talking about here, that these neurotransmitters act upon, and it depends on how upregulated or downregulated your receptors are, which you could regulate over time by just removing all psychoactive substances for a period of time. The density of these receptors, but more importantly, the dose of the neurotransmitter acting upon the specific receptor site in question. So, I mean, if you take too much 5-HTP, it might create an anxious effect. If you take too much tyrosine, it might have an anxious effect. If you take too much thyroid hormone, you might have an anxious effect. So what I'm getting at here is this, first of all, this idea that serotonin is a stress hormone, easily disprovable while taking a precursor supplement. Second of all, if it can be a stress hormone, it has to do with other factors, not just that serotonin is bad. And now, third of all, I mentioned thyroid hormone because that's the second thing I wanted to bring up in this video, is that Ray Peat followers have this like exaggerated fascination and importance that they place upon thyroid hormone, and it's really bad. So again, I'm not talking about Ray Peat himself. I'm not quoting your God, because people act like I mean, they literally recite his literature as if it's religion. It's really crazy in how dogmatic and dogmatizing they really are. But of course, that's just my opinion. But these people in these groups, okay, so these Ray Peat groups, so newcomers will comment on the Ray Peat Facebook group, and they'll ask, okay, so you know, they'll say, oh, you know, I tried the Ray Peat protocol. Not that there is a Ray Peat protocol, but I tried the Ray Peat protocol. I dumped a pound of sugar in my coffee. I drink orange juice all day. And I never had blood sugar issues before, but now my doctor says I have full-blown type 2 diabetes. What's going on here? How do I remedy this? Will the diabetes just magically disappear after I eat all this sugar over a period of time? Will my metabolism increase, and then it compensates for all the sugar I'm eating? And the most common reply on anything like this is thyroid hormone. Take thyroid hormone. Take thyroid hormone. Or else it's polyunsaturated fatty acids. Well, you know, you've got to wait a couple years before your body tissues unsaturate the polyunsaturated linoleic acid from your tissues, and only then will you be insulin sensitive enough to down 3,000 calories worth of refined sugar every day. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I need to explain why that's crazy. But, you know, and again, I'll have these commenters comment down below telling me, oh, that's because they're in Ray Peat forum groups. That's not Ray Peat himself saying it. Like, okay, why are all of his followers spewing this nonsense? You know, and then why are you defending anything of this sort? You know, if you're just using Ray Peat's research as a tool to help enrich your own understanding of nutrition and your own lifestyle, then why, like, what is going on here? And I think it's because they don't want to give Ray Peat a bad name because of these people. But I don't really care. The point here, what I'm talking about here is, if you think you can just go and dump a bunch of added sugar in your food and not develop serious metabolic problems, then you got the definition of crazy. Doing the same stupid thing over and over again and expecting a better result. It just doesn't make any sense. So let's see. So the other thing, thyroid hormone. So not only is the dumping all that sugar on your food something that's commonly talked about as beneficial, and if you can't handle it, you're not doing it right. Also, they say the same thing about milk, that if you can't digest pasteurized milk, then you have some kind of gut problem, and then you need to take an antibiotic like Danny Roddy. And I mean, honestly, I don't think human beings were I don't think we ever in our evolution evolved to consume added sugar whatsoever. And I do think that's one of the main causes of most disease. I think the same thing is said about linoleic acid and omega-6, and also pasteurized milk. Okay, I think most people have problems with pasteurized milk, not because they need to take a pharmaceutical antibiotic, not because they need more thyroid hormone, not because they need to take aspirin, which is another common thing that these people do, but because pasteurized milk destroys a lot of the enzymes and beneficial substances that actually help humans digest the milk. And then also because, for whatever reason, even with raw milk, humans seem to have a very high intolerance rates to milk in general. So, the point here is, again, these principles don't add up. Next thing is the thyroid hormone and aspirin promotion, but especially thyroid hormone. So pretty much any health issue that people consult on these groups and forums for, they're like, oh, I have fibromyalgia, what can I do, blah, blah, blah. And they say, are you following the diet, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yeah, I'm following all of his principles. I'm doing the orange juice, doing the coffee, yada, yada. And they say, okay, are you taking thyroid hormone? And they're like, no, should I need to? And they're like, yes, people are so stressed in our modern society because of EMF waves and, over-exercising and the stressful lifestyle. And that's why you need to take all this crazy amounts of sugar. You need to consume thyroid hormone and aspirin to compensate for the stress of modern life. And it makes no sense. And all I can really see is, number one, like flawed logic, and number two, lining the pockets of big pharmaceutical companies. Even though Ray Peat's supposed to be against that. But taking aspirin and thyroid hormone as part of your everyday healthy diet to obtain health. My definition of health does not include, pharmaceutical drugs. And from what I've experienced myself, my own healing, and seeing thousands of other people, and understanding the scientific literature, and also seeing zero healthy societies on the planet ever who have ever followed any of Ray Peat's principles, and they are living healthy. I don't think you need to take thyroid hormone to reverse the disease or to be healthy, unless maybe you have a severe case of thyroid issues. But even hypothyroidism typically can be cured or put into remission without exogenous supplements of that kind. Nonetheless, that might be the one exception. The point here is, if you are just looking to be healthy, you don't need to be taking thyroid hormone, aspirin, abundant amounts of sugar in your super strong coffee, orange juice all day, milk all day. You don't need to be doing that. But their antidote for everything is thyroid hormone. Oh, you have Crohn's disease? Take thyroid hormone. Oh, you have depression? Take thyroid hormone. You have arthritis? This Ray Peat article says, take some thyroid hormone. Not necessarily. I'm sure Ray Peat and his articles are fine, but this whole idea that sugar is an anti-stress molecule, Serotonin is a stress molecule. Caffeine is an anti-stress molecule. And I mean, again, people will post in the comment section telling me Ray Peat never said that, but all of his followers are promoting this idea. And I swear I've seen direct quotes from Ray Peat claiming that these things are the case. So, I mean, and there's a whole lot more that I can talk about. So another one is this idea that, so Hans Sly and the general adaptation syndrome to stress is the main reasoning behind a lot of this information that comes from Ray Peat's followers. And let me just say, so Hans Sly, I have his book, Stress, I think it's called Stress Over Distress or something like that. And that book is actually a book that Hans Sly released later on after his book, what was it, The Stress of Life or whatever it was, his fundamental book that talked about the general adaptation syndrome. And this book talks about how your perception of stress and your reaction to stress influences whether stress has negative or positive effects. I think it's called Stress Before Distress. And it talks about how having a purpose and a meaning in life and stuff like that can heavily change your response to stress. And essentially it seems to be kind of like a precursor to what we now think of as hormesis. And for me personally, I believe hormetic responses to stress more accurately replicates reality versus this idea that we're all under stress and we got to try our best not to die from overstress, and especially this idea that we need to take all this sugar and all this thyroid hormone to negate modern stress. I think hormesis makes a lot more sense, and Hans Sly has actually released that book, which kind of seems to be the beginning of what we now know as hormesis. And remember, Hans Sly, his work was from the early 1900s to the 1940s or whatever. It's early 1900s science. We're now 70 years in the future? So I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. And a lot of Ray Peat's supporting evidence for the things he says, they're studies done on rat models from the extracted hypothalamus in a test tube, things like studies from the 1980s, which I'm not saying that is bad or that completely negates any purpose of his work or any meaning, but it's just that most of his ideas, they're complete opposite to what's actually going on in reality. There's not a whole lot of human intervention trials or population studies or even cohort studies that mirror what he's saying. In fact, we see the exact opposite of what he's saying to be the case in reality. And the only way that any of these people can survive eating that much sugar and all these things is if they take aspirin and thyroid hormone and things like that. And I just don't think it is sustainable. I don't think it makes sense. And I think the reason why all these people have to take thyroid hormone and aspirin on a regular basis and these exogenous hormones has nothing to do with the stress of life or anything like that, with the stress of the modern world. It has to do with the stress of their dietary protocol in general. Adding sugar to everything, drinking orange juice, that's what I think. So leave your questions and comments down below, and if you think I'm full of crap, let me know, and try to support your arguments. Be civil and report and give me something to really look into. Make it simple for me, because I'm a dum-dum. I'm not as technical as Ray Peat. I'm being sarcastic, of course. Typically, people overcomplicate things beyond reason to compensate for a lack of fundamental, realistic, tangible application. I think that's what's going on with a lot of this stuff.